The rain came down in sheets so thick that Maya Chen could barely see 3 feet ahead. February in New York had a way of punishing the unprepared, and tonight she was as unprepared as they came. No umbrella, she'd left it on the subway 2 weeks ago. No proper coat. The one she owned had a broken zipper that let the cold seep through like water through a sieve. Just her waitress uniform under a thin jacket, both soaked through, clinging to her skin like ice. Her shift at the diner had ended 20 minutes ago. 11 hours on her feet, serving coffee and eggs to people who looked through her like she was part of the furniture. Her tips for the day sat heavy in her apron pocket. $43 in crumpled bills and loose change. Not great, but enough. Enough for the electric bill that was 2 weeks overdue. Enough for rice and beans to last until Friday's paycheck. Enough to keep the lights on in the studio apartment she shared with her grandmother. Everything in Maya's life came down to enough. Never more, never less. Just enough to survive another day. She hurried down 8th Avenue, her canvas sneakers, the ones with holes in both soles, squelching with each step. The subway entrance was 2 blocks away, then a 40-minute ride to Queens, then the walk home. She calculated the time in her head. 11:47 now. Home by 1:15 if the trains were running on schedule. Up at 6 on for her morning shift at the bakery. 4.5 hours of sleep if she was lucky. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. The side street was darker than the avenue, the streetlights flickering weakly against the downpour. Maya kept her head down, her mind already planning tomorrow's necessities. Bread was cheapest at the corner store. Grandma needed her medication refilled. The landlord had been calling about next month's rent. That's when she saw him. He sat slumped against a brick wall in the narrow gap between a closed laundromat and a pawn shop. At first, Maya thought he was just another heap of discarded clothes, the kind of urban debris you learn to step over without looking. But then she caught the movement, a hand lifting slowly, trembling before falling back to the wet pavement. A person, a man, from what she could tell in the dim light. Every instinct Maya had developed over 3 years of barely surviving in this city screamed at her to keep walking. Don't make eye contact, don't engage, don't get involved. The street was empty at this hour, and being a woman alone meant being smart about which battles you picked. But her feet had already stopped moving. The man's face was hidden in shadow, his body curled in on itself against the cold. He wore what might have once been decent clothes. She could make out dark pants, a button-down shirt. But they were soaked through, plastered to his frame. No coat, no shoes, that she could see. His breathing came in harsh, ragged gasps that cut through the sound of rain. "Sir?" Maya's voice came out small, uncertain. "Are you okay?" No response. She took a step closer, her hand instinctively moving to the pepper spray on her keychain. Up close, she could see him more clearly. He was younger than she'd thought, maybe mid-30s, though the hard lines of his face and the dark stubble covering his jaw made it hard to tell. His hair was black and plastered to his skull, water dripping down a face that would have been handsome if it wasn't so pale, so drawn with what looked like pain or exhaustion or both. "Sir, I'm going to call 911, okay? You need help." His hand shot out faster than she would have thought possible, fingers wrapping around her wrist, not tight, not threatening, but firm enough to stop her from reaching for her phone. "No hospitals." His voice was rough, each word seeming to cost him effort. "No police." Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. This was the moment where smart women made smart choices and walked away. But his grip on her wrist was already loosening, his strength fading as quickly as it had appeared. And his eyes, dark brown, nearly black in the dim light, held something that stopped her cold. Desperation. pure, raw desperation that she recognized because she'd seen it in her own mirror often enough. "You can't stay out here," she said, surprised by the steadiness in her own voice. "It's February. You'll freeze." "Then I freeze." He let go of her wrist, his hand falling back to the pavement. "Not your problem." But it was. Somehow, in that moment, it became her problem. Maybe because he looked about as lost as she felt most days. Maybe because she knew what it was like to be invisible, to have the world walk past you like you didn't exist. Maybe because her grandmother had raised her to believe that kindness mattered, even when, especially when, you could barely afford it. Maya looked at him for a long moment. Really looked. His clothes were soaked but not cheap. The fabric of his shirt had that quality that suggested money, or at least a past that included it. His hands, though dirty and scraped, didn't have the calluses and scars of long-term street living. Whatever had put him on this sidewalk, it hadn't been a slow descent. "There's a shelter 3 blocks from here," she tried. "I can help you get there." "No shelters." "A hospital, then? You look like you need medical—" I said no. Harder this time, with an edge that made her take a step back. They stared at each other in the rain, this strange, impossible standoff between a woman who had nothing and a man who seemed determined to accept even less. "Fine," Maya heard herself say. "Then take this." She reached into her apron pocket, her fingers finding the bills she'd counted 3 times already. $43. The electric bill. Rice and beans. The small buffer between her and complete catastrophe. Her hand closed around a $20 bill. She pulled it out, held it toward him. "There's a motel 2 blocks north, the east side. It's not fancy, but it's warm and dry. This should cover one night. Get inside. Get warm. Figure out your next move when you're not hypothermic." He stared at the bill like it was a foreign object. "Why?" "Because it's raining," she said simply, "and you look like you need it more than I do." That was a lie. She needed that $20 desperately. But standing there in the rain, looking at this man who'd clearly fallen from somewhere high and landed hard, she couldn't walk away. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her head. "We may not have much, Maya, but we always have enough to help someone who has less." "Take it," she insisted, pushing the bill toward him. "Please." His hand moved slowly, almost reluctantly. When his fingers brushed hers, taking the money, she felt the ice cold of his skin. He was shaking, she realized. Not dramatically, but with that fine tremor that spoke of a body pushed too far past its limits. "The east side," she repeated. 2 blocks north. Tell them you need the cheapest room they have." She turned to leave, her heart already sinking as she recalculated her finances. $23 until Friday. She could make it work. She'd have to. Wait. Maya looked back. He'd managed to push himself into more of a sitting position, though the effort clearly cost him. In the weak streetlight, she got her first clear look at his face. Sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw, eyes that were studying her with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. "Your name," he said. "Maya." She wasn't sure why she told him. Maybe because he'd asked. Maybe because she wanted him to remember her as something other than just another anonymous good deed. "Maya," he repeated, like he was committing it to memory. "Thank you." She nodded and walked away before she could change her mind, before she could take the money back and make the sensible choice. The rain seemed colder now. Or maybe it was just the absence of that $20 burning a hole in her pocket, a small ember of security she'd given away to a stranger. The subway ride home was a blur of exhaustion and regret. Maya sat in the nearly empty car, water dripping from her hair, and tried not to calculate how many times she'd have to ignore her own hunger to make up for tonight's charity. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a text from her grandmother asking if she was coming home soon. "On my way," She typed back. Love you. The apartment was dark when she finally climbed the 4 flights of stairs to their door. Grandma Rose was asleep in the bedroom, her breathing the steady rhythm that meant her oxygen machine was working. Maya stood in the doorway for a moment, watching the gentle rise and fall of her grandmother's chest, and felt the weight of every choice she made settle on her shoulders. Rose Chen had raised Maya from the age of 8, after her parents died in a car accident, had worked 2 jobs to keep them fed and housed, had sacrificed everything to make sure Maya graduated high school. Now, at 76, with COPD and arthritis and a dozen other ailments that came with age and hard living, it was Maya's turn to be the caretaker. But caretaking required money. Medicine required money. The oxygen machine that helped Grandma Rose breathe required money, and Maya had just given $20 to a stranger on the street. She changed into dry clothes, an old t-shirt and sweatpants, and lay down on the pull-out couch that served as her bed. The apartment was too small for real privacy, but they made it work. 1 bedroom, a bathroom, a kitchen that was more of an alcove than a real room. 400 square feet that cost $1,800 a month, because this was New York, and even poverty came at a premium. Sleep should have come easily. Maya was exhausted enough that unconsciousness should have been immediate. But her mind kept returning to the man on the sidewalk. Those dark eyes, that desperate look. The way his hand had trembled when he took the money. She'd probably never see him again. He'd use the 20 for the motel, or maybe for drugs, or maybe he'd just pocket it and stay on the street. It didn't matter. What was done. But sleep, when it finally came, was filled with dreams of dark eyes and rain-soaked streets, and the nagging feeling that she'd just set something in motion that she didn't understand. Morning came too early. Maya's alarm shrieked at 6 thou, pulling her from shallow sleep into a reality that felt even more exhausting than her dreams. She moved through her routine on autopilot. Bathroom, quick shower with water that never quite got hot enough, the same jeans and sweater she'd worn yesterday because her laundry tokens had run out. The bakery shift started at 7 Has. Mrs. Park, the owner, was kind enough but inflexible about punctuality. Maya had learned that the hard way 3 months ago when a delayed train made her 15 minutes late. Docked pay, a lecture about responsibility. She couldn't afford another strike. Grandma Rose was awake when Maya emerged from the bathroom, sitting in her worn recliner with her oxygen tube in place, watching the morning news with the sound muted. "You got in late," Rose said. Not accusatory, just observant. "Long shift." Maya kissed her grandmother's papery cheek. "There's oatmeal on the stove. I added the brown sugar you like." "You're a good girl." Rose caught her hand, squeezed with fingers that were mostly bone now. "Too good sometimes. You work yourself to death for an old woman." "You're not old. You're vintage." Their usual joke, but it fell flat this morning. "Maya." Rose's voice was serious now. "The medication. We're almost out." Maya's stomach dropped. She'd known this was coming, had been dreading it. The prescription cost $140 with insurance. She had $23 in her pocket and wouldn't get paid until Friday. "I'll figure it out," she said, with more confidence than she felt. "Don't worry, okay?" "I do worry. That's what grandmothers do." Rose's eyes, still sharp despite her failing body, searched Maya's face. "You can't keep burning yourself out like this. Something's gotta give." "Nothing's giving. I'm fine. We're fine." Maya grabbed her jacket, still damp from last night but marginally better than nothing. "I have to go. Call me if you need anything." The February morning was brutal, all gray sky and bitter wind that cut through her inadequate jacket like it wasn't there. Maya walked the 8 blocks to the bakery because subway fare was $2.75 she didn't want to spend if she could avoid it. The bakery was warm, at least, filled with the smell of fresh bread and sugar. Maya tied on her apron and fell into the rhythm of the morning rush, serving coffee, boxing pastries, working the register with the kind of automatic efficiency that came from doing the same thing hundreds of times. Mrs. Park appeared at 9 o'clock, her sharp eyes taking in the day's sales with a satisfied nod. "Good morning, Maya. Busy?" "Steady." Maya rang up a customer, handed over a bag of croissants with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "You look tired." "I'm fine." "You always say that." Mrs. Park's expression softened slightly. "You work too hard, girl. When's the last time you took a day off?" Maya tried to remember and couldn't. Months, probably, between the bakery shifts and the diner and the occasional catering gig she picked up when she could. Days off were luxuries she couldn't afford. "I like staying busy," she said, which was true enough. The morning crawled by. Maya served customers, cleaned tables, restocked the display case. Her feet ached from yesterday's 11-hour shift, and the lack of sleep was catching up with her, making everything feel slightly surreal. It was just after 10 when the door chimed and he walked in. Not the man from last night. She didn't recognize him immediately. This man wore an expensive charcoal suit that fit him perfectly, tailored to emphasize broad shoulders and a lean frame. His dark hair was styled with casual precision, his jaw clean-shaven. He moved with the kind of confident grace that suggested power, control, certainty. But it was his eyes that made Maya's breath catch. Dark brown, nearly black, intense and familiar in a way that made her stomach flip. He approached the counter and Maya suddenly understood. This was him, the man from the sidewalk, but transformed, cleaned up, looking like he belonged in a boardroom rather than a rain-soaked alley. "Good morning," she said automatically, her customer service voice kicking in despite her confusion. "What can I get you?" He didn't answer immediately, just looked at her with those dark eyes, studying her face like he was memorizing every detail. "Coffee," he finally said. "Black, and whatever pastry you recommend." His voice was different too, still that rough edge but controlled now. Commanding. Maya's hands shook slightly as she poured the coffee, selected an almond croissant from the case. $4.50, she said. He pulled out a wallet, sleek black leather that probably cost more than her monthly rent, and extracted a $100 bill. Placed it on the counter between them. "Keep the change." Maya stared at the bill. "I can't accept that." "You accepted it last night. When I needed it." His eyes held hers. "Now I'm returning the favor, with interest." She should have argued, should have insisted on giving back the proper change, but $95 would cover almost half of Grandma Rose's medication, would mean she could eat more than rice and peanut butter this week. "Why were you on that street last night?" she asked instead. A slight smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Testing a theory." "What theory?" "That genuine kindness still exists in this city." He picked up the coffee, took a sip. "You proved it does." "So that was all fake? You pretending to need help?" Anger flared in her chest, hot and unexpected. "That was some kind of game?" "Not a game." His expression grew serious. "A necessity. When you have what I have, you learn that people always want something, always have an agenda. Finding someone who gives without expecting anything in return." He paused. "That's rare, valuable." "I'm not some experiment," Maya said, her voice sharp. "And I don't want your money if this is all some rich person's entertainment." "It's not entertainment." He set the coffee down, leaned forward slightly. Maya Chen, age 26, works 3 jobs to support herself and her grandmother, Rose Chen, age 76, who has COPD and requires expensive medication. You live at 2847 Roosevelt Avenue, apartment 4C. Your rent is currently paid through the end of this month, but you're behind on utilities. You have $23 in your pocket and approximately $400 in your checking account. Your grandmother's prescription refill is due today and costs $140 that you don't have. The blood drained from Maya's face. How do you know all that? Because I make it my business to know things. He straightened, adjusting his cuffs with casual precision. Especially about people who show me kindness when I'm at my lowest. Who are you? Someone who pays his debts. He produced a business card from his jacket, placed it next to the $100 bill. My name is Dominic Zhao, and I'd like to offer you an opportunity. Maya looked at the card. Heavy stock, expensive. Just a name and a phone number. No title, no company. What kind of opportunity? Her voice came out wary. The kind that means you never have to choose between your grandmother's medication and your own meals again. His dark eyes held hers. The kind that means security, stability, and the resources to actually build a life instead of just surviving one. Nothing's free, Maya said. What's the catch? The catch is that you'll be working for me, in my world, under my protection. He picked up the coffee again. And my world is complicated, Maya. But I promise you this. If you say yes, your grandmother will have the best medical care money can buy. You'll live somewhere safe and warm. And you'll never have to stand in the rain again, wondering if you can afford to be kind. Every instinct Maya had screamed that this was too good to be true. Men who looked like him, who had his kind of power, didn't offer miracles to waitresses they met on rainy sidewalks. There had to be a price. There was always a price. But Grandma Rose needed her medication. The rent was due in 2 weeks, and Maya was so tired of barely surviving. What exactly would I be working for you as? She asked carefully. Dominic's smile was slight but genuine. That depends. What are you good at? Nothing special. Waiting tables, baking, keeping books because Mrs. Park lets me help with the bakery accounts. She crossed her arms defensively. I didn't go to college. I don't have any special skills. You have the most important skill of all. His gaze never wavered. You know how to see people. Really see them. Not what they pretend to be. That's worth more than any degree. That's not a job description. No, he agreed. It's an asset. The job itself? He paused, considering. I need someone I can trust in my personal life. Someone to manage my household, coordinate my schedule, handle the details that keep everything running smoothly. Someone who won't be corrupted by money or power because they know what real value looks like. It sounded too simple, too easy. And what do you do exactly? What kind of business are you in? Import-export primarily, real estate, various investments. His tone was casual, but something in his eyes suggested there was more to it. My family has significant interests in New York and internationally. Maya thought about the way he'd been dressed last night. The controlled danger in his voice when he'd refused hospitals and police. The fact that he'd somehow gotten detailed information about her life in less than 12 hours. You're not just a businessman, she said slowly. No, he admitted. I'm not. But I'm offering you legitimate work, Maya. Legal, above board, and better paid than anything you'll find in this city without connections or credentials. He pulled out his phone, showed her a number on the screen. This is what I'm offering as a monthly salary. Maya looked at the number, blinked, looked again. It was more than she currently made in 3 months of working herself to exhaustion. That's impossible, she whispered. It's standard for someone in that position. You're just used to being underpaid and overworked. He put the phone away. Think about it. Take the card. Call me when you're ready to discuss details. He picked up his coffee and the croissant, moved toward the door. At the threshold, he paused and looked back. And Maya, get your grandmother's medication today. Consider it an advance on your salary. We'll settle the details later." Then he was gone, leaving Maya standing behind the counter with $100 bill, a business card, and the creeping certainty that her life had just changed in ways she didn't yet understand. Maya stared at the business card for 3 days before she called the number. 3 days of working her shifts at the bakery and the diner, her mind only half present while her body went through the familiar motions. 3 days of catching herself touching the card in her pocket like a talisman, feeling its expensive weight, tracing the embossed letters of Dominic Zhao's name. 3 days of lying awake at night, doing math that never quite added up to anything but exhaustion and slow failure. She'd used the $100 for Grandma Rose's medication, along with most of what she had left in her checking account. The pharmacist had handed over the prescription with the same bored efficiency as always, unaware that those pills represented Maya choosing between her grandmother's breathing and next week's groceries. That night, Rose had asked where the money came from. Maya had lied, said she'd picked up an extra catering shift. Her grandmother's eyes, still sharp despite everything, had seen through it, but Rose was kind enough not to push. Just squeezed Maya's hand and whispered, "You carry too much, sweet girl." She wasn't wrong. By the third night, Maya's resistance had worn thin as tissue paper. She sat on her pull-out couch after her evening shift, still in her uniform that smelled like grease and desperation, and pulled out the card one more time. Dominic Zhao. Just a name and a number. No company, no address, no indication of what world she'd be stepping into if she made this call. But her grandmother needed oxygen. Their landlord had left another message about next month's rent, and Maya's canvas sneakers had developed a new hole right through the sole, so that she felt every crack in the sidewalk when she walked. She dialed before she could talk herself out of it. He answered on the second ring. "Maya." Not a question. He knew it was her. Had probably been waiting. "How did you know it was me?" Her voice came out smaller than she intended. "I know everything about what matters to me." A pause. "Are you ready to talk?" "I don't even know what we're talking about. You offered me a job, but you never actually explained what I'd be doing, where I'd be working, what your expectations are." She forced herself to sound steadier. "I need details before I can make a decision." "Fair. Tomorrow, 2:05 p.m., there's a car that will pick you up from your apartment. We'll discuss everything in person, and you can see the environment before you commit to anything." "I work tomorrow." "Call in sick." The casual command in his voice should have irritated her. Instead, it just made her tired. "I can't afford to miss a shift." "Maya." His voice softened slightly. "If you take this job, you'll never worry about missing shifts again. One day. Give me one day to show you what I'm offering. If you don't like what you see, you walk away, and I'll compensate you for the lost wages." Fair? It wasn't fair. None of this was fair. Not the way he'd appeared in her life, not the way he seemed to know everything about her, not the way her desperate circumstances made saying no feel impossible. But desperation had its own logic, and hers was screaming at her to take the chance. "Okay," she whispered. "Tomorrow at Tukasaku." "Good girl." She could hear the smile in his voice. "Wear something comfortable. And Maya? Get some sleep. You sound exhausted." He hung up before she could respond. The car that arrived the next day was exactly what Maya should have expected. Sleek, black, expensive enough that people on her street stopped to stare. The driver, a man in his 40s with the build of someone who'd spent time in the military, opened the door for her without a word. Maya had agonized over what to wear, finally settling on her only pair of jeans without visible holes and a sweater that was presentable, if not impressive. She felt painfully aware of how out of place she looked, sliding into the leather interior of a vehicle that probably cost more than her annual income. The drive took 40 minutes, leaving Queens behind for Manhattan's Upper East Side. The buildings grew taller, cleaner, more imposing. The people on these sidewalks wore designer clothes like armor, walked with the confidence of never having to check their bank balance before buying coffee. They pulled up to a building that made Maya's breath catch. All glass and steel and architectural ambition, with a doorman in an actual uniform and an entrance that looked like it belonged in a luxury hotel. The driver opened her door, gestured for her to follow. Inside, everything gleamed. Marble floors, modern art that was probably worth more than her entire life, a security desk where two men in suits watched her with professional interest. The driver, she realized he was probably a bodyguard, led her to a private elevator that required a key card to access. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. The elevator rose smoothly, silently. Maya watched the numbers climb, 20, 30, 40, until they stopped at 52. The top floor. The doors opened directly into an apartment. No, not an apartment. A penthouse that seemed to occupy the entire floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased a view of Manhattan that looked like something from a movie, the city spread out below in miniature perfection. And standing by those windows, backlit by afternoon sun, was Dominic Zhao. He'd ditched the suit jacket, wore just dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. It should have made him look more casual, more approachable. Instead, it just emphasized the lean muscle of his forearms, the controlled power in the way he held himself. Maya. He turned, and his expression softened in a way that made her stomach flip. Thank you for coming. You didn't give me much choice. She stayed near the elevator, suddenly feeling like prey that had walked into a predator's den. You always have a choice. He moved toward her but stopped several feet away, giving her space. That's important to me. Whatever you decide today, it needs to be your decision. No pressure, no manipulation, just information so you can choose for yourself. Okay. She forced herself to meet his eyes. So inform me, what is this job you're offering? Come, sit. We'll talk. He gestured toward a seating area that was all modern furniture and carefully curated comfort. Maya followed, hyper-aware of everything she touched. The leather couch was butter-soft. The coffee table was probably an antique. And the art on the walls looked like the kind of thing you saw in museums. This was wealth beyond anything she'd ever experienced, and being in it made her feel simultaneously fascinated and inadequate. Dominic sat across from her, close enough for conversation but maintaining careful distance. First, I need you to understand who I am. Really understand, so you can make an informed decision. You said import-export, Maya said. Real estate, investments. That's all true. My family's legitimate businesses are substantial and profitable. He paused, holding her gaze. But that's not the whole truth. My family also has other interests. Less legal ones. We control significant operations in this city. Protection services, gambling, certain distribution networks. Nothing that touches drugs or trafficking, but still illegal. Still dangerous. Maya's chest tightened. You're in the Mafia. That's an outdated term, but essentially, yes. He didn't look away, didn't soften it. The Zhao family has operated in New York for 3 generations. We have territory, alliances, enemies. We exist in the space between legitimate business and organized crime, and we're very good at maintaining that balance. And you want me to work for you? In this world? Her voice came out flat, carefully neutral. I want you to work for me in my personal life, which I keep as separate from the business as possible. He leaned forward slightly. Maya, I have dozens of people who handle my criminal enterprises. What I need is someone I can trust in my private space, Someone who isn't corrupted by the money, who isn't trying to use proximity to me for leverage or power. Someone naive enough not to realize what she's getting into. A slight smile tugged at his mouth. Someone genuine enough to give her last $20 to a stranger in the rain. That's not naivety, Maya. That's character. And character is what I need around me. What would I actually be doing? She needed concrete details, something to anchor her in this surreal conversation. Managing this household. I have a cleaning service, but there's strangers who come and go. I need someone here who knows my schedule, handles the details, dry cleaning, groceries, making sure I remember to eat when I'm working too much. He gestured around the penthouse, coordinating with my staff, screening calls, managing my personal calendar. Things that require discretion and trust. You need a personal assistant. I need someone I can trust not to sell information about my movements to my enemies or the press. Someone who won't be compromised. His eyes held hers. I need someone who proved she values people over profit. That was you, Maya. That night in the rain. So that really was a test. She couldn't keep the bitterness from her voice. It was desperation disguised as strategy. His expression grew more serious. I'd lost someone I trusted. Found out they'd been feeding information to a rival family. Could have gotten me killed. I needed to know there were still people in this city who weren't for sale. He paused. You gave away money you desperately needed to help a stranger. That told me everything I needed to know about your character. Maya sat with that for a moment, processing. And if I'd walked past you that night, then I wouldn't be talking to you now. So my kindness trapped me into this. Your kindness gave you an opportunity most people never get. He stood, moved to the windows. Maya, you're drowning. I watched you for 3 days after that night. You work 16-hour days and still can't make ends meet. Your grandmother needs care you can't afford. You're one emergency away from homelessness, and you know it. I'm offering you a way out. Nothing's free, she said again, the same words from the bakery. What do you really want from me? He turned to face her, and the honesty in his expression made her breath catch. I want to take care of you. I want to give you the security and stability you've never had. I want to watch you thrive instead of just survive. He moved closer, but didn't sit. And yes, I want your loyalty, your trust, your presence in my life. I'm not going to pretend this is purely professional, Maya. I'm drawn to you in ways I don't fully understand yet. But I promise you this. I will never force anything. You set the boundaries. You decide what this becomes. This is insane, Maya whispered. You don't even know me. I know you work 3 jobs. I know you walk 8 blocks to save subway fare. I know you buy the cheapest groceries and skip meals so your grandmother can eat. I know you haven't bought yourself new clothes in over a year. I know you're brilliant with numbers. Mrs. Park told me you catch accounting errors she misses. I know you're kind, resilient, and so damn stubborn you've been surviving on pride and determination when anyone else would have given up. He crouched in front of her, bringing himself to eye level. I know everything that matters, Maya. The question is whether you're brave enough to trust that knowledge. Her hands were shaking. She clasped them together in her lap, trying to hide the tremor. What's the salary? He named the figure he'd shown her before. Plus full medical insurance for you and your grandmother. Housing, either here in a guest suite or in an apartment I own that's closer to your grandmother if you prefer to stay near her. All household expenses covered. Transportation. Anything you need. It was too much. Impossibly too much. Why so much for what amounts to housekeeping and calendar management? Because you'll be making my life significantly better, and I value that highly. He stood, giving her space again. Because you'll have access to sensitive information and discretion is worth paying for. Because I can afford it, and I'd rather pay you well than watch you struggle. This feels like charity. It's employment. You'll work for what I'm paying you." His tone was firm. "I'm not easy to work for, Maya. I keep irregular hours. I have high standards. When I'm dealing with business, I can be demanding. You'll earn every dollar." She thought about Grandma Rose, struggling to breathe in their too small apartment, about the holes in her shoes and the electricity bill, and the constant grinding weight of never having enough, about what it would feel like to wake up without that pressure crushing her chest. "I need to think about it," she said. "Of course. Take all the time you need." He moved to a desk near the windows, pulled out an envelope. "This is for you regardless of your decision. Compensation for today's missed work, plus a little extra." Maya took the envelope with numb fingers. Inside were crisp bills, 500s, more money than she'd ever held at once. "I can't." "You can. You gave me 20 when you had 43. I'm giving you 500 when I have significantly more than that. It's proportional, Maya. Just accept it." She wanted to argue, wanted to maintain some shred of pride and independence, but pride didn't pay for oxygen machines, and independence didn't keep the lights on. "Thank you," she whispered. "Don't thank me yet." His expression was unreadable. "If you take this job, your life changes completely. You'll be under my protection, which means you'll also be in proximity to danger. My enemies might see you as a target or leverage. You'll have to be careful about what you say and to whom. Your freedom will be constrained in ways you're not used to. So it's a golden cage. It's safety and security with boundaries." He held her gaze. "But Maya, those boundaries exist to keep you alive. In my world, information is currency and weakness is fatal. I'll protect you with everything I have, but you need to understand what you're accepting." A phone buzzed, his on the desk. He glanced at it, and something in his expression hardened. "I need to take this. Michael will drive you home." He moved toward her, and for a moment she thought he might touch her. Instead, he just looked at her with those dark, intense eyes. "Think about it. Call me when you decide. But Maya, don't take too long. Your grandmother's oxygen tank needs replacing next month, and that's not cheap." The fact that he knew that, had researched her life that thoroughly, should have terrified her. Instead, it just reinforced what she already knew. Dominic Zhao was methodical, controlling, and absolutely serious about wanting her in his life. The drive home was quiet. Maya sat in the back of that expensive car, clutching the envelope, and tried to understand what had just happened. A week ago, she'd been invisible, just another struggling woman in a city full of them. Now a man who operated in shadows and danger wanted to pull her into his orbit, wanted to take care of her, wanted something from her she didn't fully understand yet. Grandma Rose was watching her afternoon shows when Maya got home. She looked up as Maya entered, her oxygen tube hissing softly, and her eyes went immediately to the envelope in Maya's hand. "What happened?" Rose asked quietly. Maya sat beside her grandmother's recliner, suddenly exhausted. "I think I just got offered a way out of this." "Out of what?" "All of it. The struggle, the constant fear, the math that never adds up." She looked at Rose, this woman who'd sacrificed everything to raise her. "But it comes with complications." "Everything worth having does." Rose's hand found Maya's. "Tell me." So Maya did. She told her grandmother about the man in the rain, about the money she'd given away, about Dominic Zhao appearing at the bakery like something from a fever dream. She told her about the penthouse and the job offer and the careful admission that his world was dangerous. Rose listened without interrupting, her face thoughtful. When Maya finished, her grandmother was quiet for a long moment. "This man," Rose finally said, "does he frighten you?" Maya thought about that. "No. He should. But he doesn't. He's intense and overwhelming and clearly dangerous, but not to me. I don't think he'd ever hurt me. Do you trust him? I don't know. Maybe. He's been honest about who he is and what he's offering. That counts for something. Rose squeezed her hand. Maya, sweet girl, you've been carrying us both for 3 years, working yourself into the ground, never complaining, always making it work somehow. But I see you. I see how tired you are. How scared. Her voice trembled slightly. I'm dying, baby. Slowly, but dying. And my biggest fear isn't death. It's leaving you alone with nothing. No safety net, no security. Just more struggle. Grandma. Let me finish. Rose's grip tightened. If this man can give you security, if he can protect you and provide for you, then maybe you should consider it. Even if it's complicated. Even if it's not what you imagined for yourself. It feels like giving up, like admitting I can't make it on my own. Making it on your own is overrated, Rose said firmly. Accepting help from someone who wants to give it isn't weakness. It's wisdom. And if he's dangerous, well, a slight smile. At least he's dangerous on your side. Maya laughed despite herself, the sound halfway to a sob. You're supposed to tell me to be careful, to protect myself. I'm telling you to live, Maya. Really live. Not just survive. Rose pulled her closer. Call him. Take the job. See where it leads. And if it goes wrong, you'll figure it out. You always do. That night, lying in her pull-out bed, Maya made her decision. She called Dominic at midnight. He answered immediately, his voice alert despite the hour. I'll take the job, she said without preamble, but I have conditions. Name them. She could hear the satisfaction in his voice. First, my grandmother stays in our apartment or moves somewhere close by. I'm not leaving her alone across the city. Agreed. In fact, I have a better option. There's a building I own in Astoria. Assisted living facility. Top-rated medical staff. Your grandmother would have her own apartment. 24-hour care available if she needs it. And you'd be 10 minutes away when you're staying at your place. Maya's throat tightened. That kind of facility costs... It's covered. Part of your benefits package. Second condition, she continued, not letting herself get emotional yet. I want everything in writing. The salary, the benefits, my job duties. I need to know exactly what I'm agreeing to. My lawyer will have a contract ready tomorrow. And third, she took a breath. If I want to leave, if this doesn't work out, I can walk away. No retaliation, no consequences. You let me go. He was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful. I'll agree to that with one caveat. If you're leaving because you're in danger, or because someone's pressuring you, you tell me first. Give me a chance to fix whatever's wrong. If you still want to leave after that, you're free to go. It was more reasonable than she'd expected. Okay. When can you start? I need to give notice at my jobs. 2 weeks? Give notice tomorrow. I'll compensate your employers for the lost time. You start Monday. Before she could argue, he continued. Maya, every day you keep working those jobs is another day you're exhausted and at risk. Let me start protecting you now. You're very used to getting what you want. Yes. No apology in it. But in this case, what I want is what's best for you. Trust me on that. After they hung up, Maya lay in the dark and tried to process what she'd just done. In one phone call, she'd changed everything. Given up her independence, her pride, her careful control over her own life, but she'd also secured her grandmother's care. Given herself a chance at something better than survival. Stepped into the orbit of a man who looked at her like she mattered. Like she was valuable, like she was worth protecting. Tomorrow she'd tell Mrs. Park and the diner manager she was leaving. Tomorrow, she'd start packing up 3 years of barely making it. Tomorrow, her new life would begin. Tonight, she let herself cry. For relief? For fear? For the girl she'd been who'd given her last $20 to a stranger and set in motion events she still didn't fully understand. Outside her window, the city hummed with its usual chaos. And somewhere in a penthouse 52 floors above Manhattan, Dominic Zhao was probably working late, making plans, building the cage of protection and luxury he was so determined to put her in. Maya closed her eyes and tried not to think about how willingly she was walking into it. Monday came faster than Maya expected. The weekend had been a blur of activity that felt simultaneously too fast and dreamlike. Mrs. Park had been disappointed but understanding when Maya gave her notice, especially after a very generous check arrived from a benefactor covering 2 months of replacement labor. The diner manager had been less gracious until a similar check appeared, after which he'd wished her well with barely concealed eagerness. Rose's move to the assisted living facility had happened with startling efficiency. Dominic's people, and Maya was learning he had people for everything, had packed up her grandmother's belongings, transported them to a beautiful apartment with a view of a garden, and had a medical team assess Rose's needs within 48 hours. Her grandmother had cried, overwhelmed by the space and the care and the simple dignity of it all. "This is because of you," Rose had said, squeezing Maya's hand, "because you were kind to a stranger. Remember that, sweet girl. Kindness matters." Now Maya stood in the lobby of Dominic's building, a duffel bag containing her worldly possessions in one hand, feeling like an imposter in this world of marble and money. The doorman, Marcus, who'd introduced himself with surprising warmth, had already swiped her up to the penthouse. The elevator doors opened and Dominic was there waiting. He wore dark jeans and a charcoal sweater, more casual than she'd seen him, but no less imposing. His eyes traveled over her, taking in her worn clothes and nervous posture, and his expression softened. "Welcome home," he said simply. Home. The word felt foreign. "I thought I'd be staying in a guest suite." "You will be. Come, I'll show you your space." He took her bag before she could protest, his fingers brushing hers briefly. The contact sent electricity up her arm. The penthouse looked even more impressive in daylight. Sun streamed through those massive windows, making everything gleam. Dominic led her down a hallway she hadn't seen during her first visit, past what looked like his office and a media room, to a door at the end. "This is yours," he said, opening it. Maya stepped inside and forgot how to breathe. The suite was larger than her entire apartment had been. A bedroom with a king-size bed and more windows, a sitting area with a couch and desk, a bathroom that was all marble and rainfall showers and luxury she'd only seen in magazines. The closet was a walk-in the size of her old bedroom. "This is too much," she whispered. "It's what you deserve." Dominic set her bag down on the bed. "The closet is stocked with clothes in your size. Business casual mostly, comfortable things for around the house. I had a stylist handle it, but if you don't like anything, we'll get different options." Maya moved to the closet, opened it with shaking hands. Inside were more clothes than she'd owned in her entire life. Quality fabrics, good construction, things that would actually last. Not designer labels or flashy, just solid, well-made pieces that suggested someone had paid attention to what she might actually need. "You didn't have to do this." "Yes, I did. You can't work effectively if you're worried about your appearance or whether your shoes have holes in them." He moved closer, his voice gentle. "Maya, let me take care of these details. It's not charity. It's ensuring you can focus on your job instead of survival." She turned to face him, and the intensity in his eyes made her stomach flip. "Why do I feel like this is about more than just work?" "Because it is." He didn't look away, didn't soften it. "I told you I was drawn to you. That hasn't changed. If anything, it's gotten stronger. But I also meant what I said. You set the boundaries. You decide what this becomes beyond professional. And if I want to keep it professional? Something flickered across his expression. Disappointment, maybe, but also acceptance. Then we keep it professional. I won't push, Maya. I won't use your employment or your grandmother's care as leverage. You have my word on that. The fact that she believed him should probably have worried her more than it did. Okay. Okay, you'll keep it professional? Or okay, you understand? Okay, I understand. The rest? She gestured helplessly. I don't know yet. This is all happening so fast. Then we take it slow. He moved toward the door, giving her space. Unpack. Settle in. I'm working from home today, so no pressure. When you're ready, come find me and we'll go over your duties officially. But Maya? He paused in the doorway. Thank you for trusting me enough to be here. I know how hard that was. After he left, Maya sat on the edge of the bed and tried to process her new reality. This room, this suite, was hers. The clothes in that closet, hers. The security and stability she'd been chasing for 3 years, suddenly within reach. All because she'd given $20 to a man in the rain. She unpacked slowly, her few possessions looking pathetic in all this space. Some photos of her and Rose, her grandmother's old recipe book, a few paperbacks she'd read multiple times. Everything she owned fit into 2 drawers. An hour later, freshly showered in a bathroom that felt like a spa, wearing new jeans that actually fit, and a soft navy sweater, Maya went looking for Dominic. She found him in his office, on the phone, speaking rapid Mandarin. He gestured for her to enter, pointed to a chair across from his desk. Maya sat, trying not to eavesdrop but unable to help noticing the edge in his voice, the controlled authority that suggested he was handling something serious. He finished the call with what sounded like a command, then set the phone down and focused entirely on her. Better? The shower in my bathroom has 6 different settings. I'm not sure I'll ever leave it. A smile tugged at his mouth. Wait until you try the heated floors. The what? Heated bathroom floors? For winter. Trust me, once you experience them, regular bathrooms feel barbaric. He pulled out a folder from his desk. Ready to discuss your actual responsibilities? Yes. She needed structure. Needed to understand what was expected, so this would feel less like accepting charity and more like earning her keep. Dominic opened the folder, slid a document across the desk. This is your contract. Read it carefully. My lawyer drafted it yesterday, based on our conversation. Maya took the papers, scanning the dense legal language. But the key points were clear. Salary as promised, benefits as discussed, job duties that included household management, schedule coordination, personal assistance, and discretionary projects as needed. There was a confidentiality clause about never discussing Dominic's personal or professional life with anyone outside his immediate circle. And, as promised, a termination clause that allowed her to leave with 2 weeks' notice. This seems fair, she said quietly. It is fair. I don't cheat people who work for me, Maya. Especially not you. He pulled out another document. This is the lease for your grandmother's apartment at the assisted living facility. No rent, utilities covered, medical care included. It's in Rose's name, and the terms are permanent regardless of your employment status with me. If you leave, she still has the apartment and care. Maya's eyes burned. Why would you do that? Because I don't use elderly women as leverage. His voice was firm. Your grandmother's care isn't contingent on you staying. It's a gift, freely given, because you gave me something valuable and I believe in repaying debts thoroughly. She had to look away, overwhelmed. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just sign the contracts if they're acceptable. Maya signed both documents with shaking hands, her signature looking small and inadequate on the expensive paper. Dominic countersigned, then filed them away in his desk. Now, he said, let's talk about your actual day-to-day. Mornings you'll have mostly to yourself. I work out at 6 ka, have breakfast at 7 ka, and I'm usually in meetings or at the office by 8 ka. Your role starts around 9 ka. You'll coordinate with my assistant Chen about my schedule, handle any personal appointments or arrangements, manage the household staff. Cleaning service comes twice a week. Someone delivers groceries on Wednesdays. You have someone who delivers groceries? I have someone who delivers everything. But you'll interface with them. Make sure I actually have food in the house since I'm terrible at remembering to eat when I'm busy. He gestured to a tablet on the desk. Everything runs through this system. Calendar, contacts, household management. I'll give you access to everything except my business operations. What about those business operations? Maya asked carefully. You said you'd be honest about the dangerous parts. His expression grew more serious. Most of what I do is legitimate. Shipping contracts, real estate development, investment portfolios. The illegal aspects, the protection services, the gambling operations, the gray market imports. Those are handled by specific people in specific locations that you'll never interact with. Your world will be my personal life, which I keep as clean as possible. But the danger comes from rivals who might see you as a way to hurt me. He held her gaze. That's why security is non-negotiable. When you leave this building, Marcus knows. When you visit your grandmother, you let me know. You never publish our location on social media. Never discuss where you live or who you work for. These aren't suggestions, Maya. They're requirements. So I'm a prisoner. You're protected. He leaned forward. I've made enemies in my business. Some of them would love to find a weakness they could exploit. I won't let you become that weakness. The restrictions exist to keep you safe. Maya thought about that. About the trade-off between freedom and security, between independence and protection. And if I hate it, if I feel suffocated, then we talk about it. Find adjustments that work. His voice softened. I'm not trying to cage you, Maya. I'm trying to keep you alive while giving you a better life. There's a difference. The rest of the day was spent learning systems, the tablet interface, the contacts she'd need, the household routines. Dominic was patient, explaining everything clearly, never making her feel stupid for not understanding his world. His assistant Chen, a efficient woman in her 50s, called twice to go over upcoming appointments and seemed genuinely pleased that Dominic finally had personal support. He works himself to death, Chen told Maya during their second conversation. Never eats properly, never sleeps enough. Maybe you can help with that where I've failed. Evening came softly, the sun setting over Manhattan in shades of orange and gold. Maya stood at the windows, watching the city transform, and felt the surreal weight of how much had changed in a week. Beautiful, isn't it? Dominic's voice came from behind her. He'd emerged from his office, looking tired but satisfied. I've never seen it from this high up before, Maya admitted. Now, you see it every day. He moved to stand beside her, careful to maintain space. How are you feeling? Overwhelmed? Terrified, she said honestly. This doesn't feel real yet. It will. Give it time. He was quiet for a moment. I ordered dinner. Thai food. Chen mentioned you liked it. Should be here in 20 minutes. Will you eat with me? It wasn't a command, just a request. Maya could say no, could retreat to her suite and maintain the professional distance that would be smart. But she also recognized loneliness when she saw it, and Dominic Zhao, for all his power and control, looked lonely standing in his beautiful penthouse. Okay, she said, but I'm choosing the movie after. His smile was genuine and transformed his face from intimidating to devastating. Deal. 3 months transformed Maya's life in ways she was still trying to understand. The terror had faded first, replaced by routine. She woke in a bed that felt like sleeping on clouds, showered in a bathroom with those ridiculous heated floors Dominic had promised she'd love, and she did. She managed his household with growing confidence, coordinating deliveries and appointments and the small details that kept his life running smoothly. She made sure he ate more than coffee for breakfast, reminded him to sleep when he worked past midnight, and gradually became essential to his daily existence in ways neither of them had quite anticipated. Grandma Rose was thriving. The assisted living facility had given her grandmother dignity Maya hadn't seen in years: proper medical care, social activities, a community of other seniors who played cards and gossiped and reminded Rose she was more than just a failing body. Maya visited 3 times a week, and each time Rose looked a little brighter, a little more like herself. "You look happy," Rose said during one visit, studying Maya's face with those sharp eyes. Different, lighter. Maya was happy, which terrified her, because happiness meant vulnerability, meant having something that could be taken away. She'd learned that lesson when her parents died, when her ex-boyfriend betrayed her, when life taught her that security was an illusion. But Dominic made it hard to stay guarded. He was exactly what he'd promised: demanding but fair, controlling but not cruel, protective without being suffocating. He worked constantly, his days filled with meetings and phone calls and decisions that moved money and power in ways Maya only partially understood. But he always made time for her, those quiet moments at the end of long days when they'd eat dinner together and talk about nothing important. She learned he was funny when he relaxed, that he had strong opinions about movies and terrible taste in music, that he'd grown up between New York and Hong Kong, always feeling caught between two worlds, that his father had died when he was 22, leaving him to take over family operations before he was ready, that he carried weight he never fully put down, responsibility that aged him beyond his years. And she learned that the way he looked at her, intense, possessive, hungry, hadn't faded with familiarity. If anything, it had grown stronger. They maintained careful boundaries. She worked, he employed her, and neither of them acknowledged the tension that built every time their hands brushed passing coffee cups or their eyes held a moment too long. It was professional, appropriate, exactly what Maya had said she wanted. It was also slowly killing her. Because somewhere between managing his schedule and making sure he ate and watching him work with single-minded focus, Maya had fallen completely in love with Dominic Zhao, and she was fairly certain he knew it. The shift happened on a Thursday in late May. Maya was in the kitchen preparing dinner. She'd discovered she enjoyed cooking, and Dominic had insisted she use his restaurant-quality appliances to their full potential when his office door slammed open hard enough to rattle the walls. She looked up to see Dominic emerge, his phone pressed to his ear, his expression darker than she'd ever seen it. He was speaking Mandarin, but the tone needed no translation. Fury, barely controlled. "No," he said in English, switching languages mid-sentence. "You tell them if they touch one hair on his head, I'll burn everything they own to the ground." A pause. "I don't care about the truce. They broke it first. Handle it." He hung up and stood there, his shoulders tight with rage, his hands clenched into fists. "Dominic?" Maya's voice came out careful. She'd never seen him like this. His eyes snapped to her, and for a moment she saw something feral in his gaze. Then he breathed, deliberately, and some of the tension released. "I need you to stay in the penthouse tonight," he said, his voice controlled but strained. "Don't go anywhere. Don't let anyone in except Marcus. I'll have additional security posted." Fear spiked through her chest. "What's happening?" "Nothing that concerns you." But his jaw was tight, his eyes hard. Just stay here, Maya. Please. He moved toward the elevator, already texting someone. Maya followed without thinking. Dominic, wait. You can't just tell me to lock myself in and not explain why. Yes, I can. It's my job to protect you, which means keeping you out of situations you don't need to be in. He pressed the elevator call button. And it's my job to support you, which means not sitting here terrified while you walk into something dangerous. She grabbed his arm. Talk to me. He looked at her hand on his sleeve, then at her face. Something shifted in his expression. One of my people was taken. A kid, barely 20, who works in my shipping operation. A rival crew grabbed him, probably as leverage or to send a message. I'm going to get him back. How? However, I have to. The words were flat, final. This is the part of my world you don't need to see, Maya. The ugly part. The part where I stop being the man who orders Thai food and watches movies with you and becomes something else entirely. You're still you, she said quietly. I know what you are, Dominic. I've always known. You don't have to hide that from me. You don't want to see this side of me. Maybe not. But I'm not going to pretend it doesn't exist either. She squeezed his arm. Be careful. Come home safe. I'll be here when you get back. Something in his eyes softened just for a moment. He reached up, cupped her cheek with surprising gentleness. You're too good for this world. Or maybe I'm exactly what this world needs. She leaned into his touch before she could stop herself. Go get your person back. I'll be here. He left, taking 2 men with him who appeared from somewhere in the building. Maya watched the elevator doors close, her heart hammering, and tried not to imagine all the ways this could go wrong. The next 6 hours were the longest of her life. She tried to work, to distract herself, but her mind kept conjuring scenarios. Dominic hurt, captured, worse. She called Rose, kept her voice light and normal, and lied about how everything was fine. She paced the penthouse, her phone clutched in her hand, waiting for news that didn't come. At 2 a.m., she finally heard it. The elevator opening, voices in the hallway. Maya ran from her suite, her heart in her throat. Dominic stood in the entrance, blood on his shirt. Not his, she realized with desperate relief, flanked by his men. And between them, supported by 2 guards, was a young man who looked barely conscious. Get Chen on the phone, Dominic said to one of his people. And have Dr. Liu come to the safe house. Now. His eyes found Maya standing frozen in the hallway. Maya, go to your room. Is he okay? She moved forward instead, looking at the injured young man. Does he need immediate medical attention? I said go to your room. And I said, does he need immediate help? She reached the young man, whose eyes were swollen nearly shut, blood crusting his lip. Hey, can you hear me? What's your name? Tommy. The kid managed through split lips. I'm Tommy. Maya's chest tightened. He was so young. Okay, Tommy. We're going to take care of you. You're safe now. She looked at Dominic, whose expression had shifted from commanding to something more complex. He needs ice for the swelling, and those cuts need cleaning before they get infected. Do you have a first aid kit? Maya, do you have a first aid kit? She repeated, firmer this time. One of the guards spoke up. There's one in the second bathroom. Get it. And ice from the kitchen. She turned back to Dominic. Where can we put him down? He needs to rest. For a long moment, Dominic just looked at her. Then, slowly, he smiled. A real smile that made him look younger, less burdened. Guest room. Through here. He led them to a room Maya hadn't seen before, clearly kept for situations exactly like this. The next hour was controlled chaos. The guards laid Tommy on the bed. Maya cleaned his wounds with steady hands, her years of caring for her grandmother making her confident with basic first aid. She applied ice to the swelling, bandaged the worst cuts, and kept talking to Tommy in a soothing voice that seemed to calm him. Dominic watched from the doorway, his expression unreadable. Dr. Liu arrived, a severe woman in her 60s who examined Tommy with professional efficiency and declared nothing was broken, just badly bruised. She administered pain medication, gave instructions for care, and left with the same discretion she'd arrived with. Finally, Tommy was settled, drifting toward sleep. Maya stood, her hands shaking now that the adrenaline was fading, and found Dominic still watching her. "You should clean up," she said, gesturing to the blood on his shirt. "In a minute." He moved into the room, closing the distance between them. That was impressive. Most people would have panicked. "I've seen worse." Not entirely true, but close enough. "Is he really okay?" "He'll heal. Thanks to you keeping him calm and stable until the doctor arrived." His hand found hers, squeezed gently. "Thank you, Maya. For not falling apart. For helping." "That's what people do," she said quietly. "They help. Even when it's scary." "Not in my world. In my world, people usually run." His thumb stroked the back of her hand. "But you never do you? You just keep surprising me." They stood there in the dim room, Tommy's breathing evening out behind them, and Maya felt something shift between them. Some wall that had been carefully maintained crumbling under the weight of too much tension held too long. "Dominic," she whispered. "I know." His other hand came up to cup her face. "I know, Maya. I feel it too. This is complicated. Everything about us is complicated." He leaned closer, his breath warm against her lips. "But I don't care anymore. I've tried to give you space, tried to let you set the pace. But watching you tonight, seeing you take care of someone I brought into danger." His voice roughened. "I can't pretend anymore that this is just professional, that you're just my assistant. You're so much more than that." "I'm scared," she admitted. "Of what this means, of what happens if it goes wrong." "Then we'll figure it out together." His forehead touched hers. "I'm not going anywhere, Maya, and I don't think you are either." She wasn't. That was the terrifying truth. Somewhere between heated bathroom floors and late-night movies and the way he looked at her like she was the most important thing in his world, she'd stopped wanting to leave. Stopped looking for the exit. Stopped protecting herself from the inevitable fall. "Kiss me," she breathed. He did. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was 3 months of restraint breaking all at once. Hunger and need, and something deeper that neither of them had words for yet. His hands tangled in her hair, pulled her closer. She gasped against his mouth and he swallowed the sound, kissing her like he'd been starving for it. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were nearly black. "Bedroom," he said, his voice rough. "Now. Unless you want to stop. In which case, tell me and I will. But Maya, if we do this, I don't want to stop." She grabbed his hand. "I haven't wanted to stop for weeks. I'm done pretending." They made it to his room, larger than hers, darker, unmistakably masculine, and he kicked the door shut behind them. Then his hands were on her again, pulling her against him, and Maya stopped thinking about complications or consequences. There was only this: Dominic's mouth on hers, his hands learning the shape of her body, the way he said her name like a prayer. Later, tangled in sheets that smelled like him, his arm wrapped around her waist and his breath warm against her neck, Maya stared at the ceiling and tried to process what had just happened. "Regrets?" Dominic's voice was quiet, careful. "No." She turned to face him. "Should I have them?" "Probably. This makes everything more complicated." His hand traced lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. "But I can't bring myself to care. I want you, Maya. Not just physically, though that was..." He paused, a slight smile tugging at his mouth. But I want you in my life. Permanently. Not as an employee. As mine. There was that word again. His. It should have made her bristle. Should have triggered every independence instinct she had. Instead, it just made her feel safe. What does that mean exactly? She asked. It means I take care of you. Protect you. Build a life with you. His eyes held hers. It means eventually, when you're ready, I make this official in every way that matters. But for now, it means you stop sleeping in the guest suite and stay here with me. Very presumptuous. Yes. No apology. But accurate. You're not going back to that room, Maya. You're staying right here where I can hold you. She should have argued, should have insisted on maintaining some boundaries. But she was tired of fighting what she wanted. And what she wanted was exactly this. Being held by a man who looked at her like she was precious, who'd given her security and stability, and something that felt dangerously close to love. Okay, she whispered. I'll stay. His smile was brilliant, transforming his entire face. Good girl. He pulled her closer, kissed her forehead. Sleep. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. But sleep was difficult with her mind racing. Everything had changed tonight. The careful professional distance shattered. The pretense of just working together destroyed. She'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross. Had given herself to a man whose world was dangerous and complicated and nothing like what she'd imagined for her life. And yet, lying there in his arms, listening to his heartbeat steady beneath her ear, Maya couldn't bring herself to regret it. She'd been surviving for so long. Maybe it was time to actually live. Morning came with coffee and consequences. Maya woke alone, the sheets beside her still warm but empty. For a moment, panic spiked. Had last night been a mistake? Was Dominic regretting it, pulling away? Then the bedroom door opened and he appeared, carrying a tray with coffee and what smelled like fresh pastries. He wore pajama pants and nothing else, and Maya's mouth went dry looking at him in the morning light. You're awake, he said, setting the tray on the bedside table. Good. We need to talk. That sounded ominous. Maya sat up, pulling the sheet around herself. About? About what happens now. He handed her a coffee, prepared exactly how she liked it, because of course he'd noticed. Last night changed things. I'm not going to pretend it didn't, or that we can just go back to how things were. I don't want to go back, she said quietly. Good. Neither do I. He sat on the edge of the bed, his expression serious. But Maya, if we're doing this, really doing this, you need to understand what you're accepting. Being with me isn't just complicated because I'm your employer or because we come from different worlds. It's dangerous. You've said that before. And now it's more true than ever. When you were my assistant, you were under my protection but somewhat removed. Now? His hand found hers. Now you're mine in every way that matters. That makes you a target, Maya. My enemies will see you as my weakness, as leverage they can use against me. So what do? We're careful. More security, more precautions. You don't go anywhere without letting me know. You learn to recognize threats. Trust your instincts. His grip tightened. And if anything ever feels wrong, if anyone approaches you or makes you uncomfortable, you call me immediately. No hesitation, no trying to handle it yourself. You're scaring me. Good. I want you scared enough to be cautious. Because Maya, I can't... His voice broke slightly. I can't lose you. Not now. Not after finally having you. The raw emotion in his voice made her chest tight. She reached up, cupped his face. You're not going to lose me. I'm not that easy to get rid of. Promise me you'll be careful. I promise. She kissed him softly. Now stop looking so worried. We'll figure this out. You have too much faith in happy endings. And you don't have enough. She smiled. Balance, remember? He pulled her into his arms, holding her close, and Maya felt the tension in his body slowly ease. They stayed like that for a long moment, the coffee cooling beside them, both of them trying to believe that this could actually work. A phone buzzed. His, on the nightstand. Dominic groaned, checked the screen, and his expression hardened. I have to take this. Work? Always. He kissed her forehead, stood, grabbed a shirt from the closet. Stay in today. I'll be dealing with fallout from last night's situation. Chen will call about rescheduling some appointments. What kind of fallout? The kind where I had to make it very clear what happens to people who take what's mine. His voice was cold, hard. Don't worry about it. Just stay safe. He left, already on the phone, speaking rapid Mandarin. Maya sat alone in his bed, drinking cooling coffee, and tried not to think about what making it very clear meant in Dominic's world. She spent the morning moving her things from the guest suite to his room. It felt surreal, seeing her few possessions mixed with his, her toiletries in his bathroom, her clothes in his closet, making permanent what had started as temporary, as protection, as convenience. Tommy was awake when she checked on him, looking rough but more alert. His eyes widened when he saw her. You're the lady from last night, he said, the one who helped me. I'm Maya, how are you feeling? Like I got beat up by 6 guys. He tried to smile, winced at the pain. But alive, thanks to Mr. Zhao. He came for me. Actually came for me, even though I'm nobody. You're not nobody, Maya said firmly. You matter. That's why he came. He killed 2 of them. Tommy's voice was quiet. The guys who took me. I saw it. He walked into that warehouse like something out of a nightmare and he stopped, swallowed hard. I've never seen anyone move like that. Like death in an expensive suit. Maya's stomach turned, but she kept her expression neutral. He was protecting you. I know, and I'm grateful. Tommy looked at her with eyes too old for his young face. You seem nice. Normal. What are you doing with a man like him? It was a fair question. What was she doing with a man who killed people, who operated outside the law, who was exactly the kind of dangerous her grandmother had always warned her about? I don't know, she admitted, but I don't think I can walk away now even if I wanted to. That's how it works with people like him, Tommy said. They get in your head, under your skin, make you need them, and then you're stuck. You sound like you're speaking from experience. My dad worked for Mr. Zhao. Got greedy, tried to steal. Mr. Zhao could have killed me too when he found out. Should have probably, to send a message. But he didn't. Put me to work instead. Gave me a chance. Tommy's eyes held hers. I owe him my life. And now you do too, whether you realize it or not. That's how he operates. He becomes essential. And once you're his forever. The words echoed in Maya's head long after she left Tommy's room. Forever. That's what Dominic had implied this morning. Permanent, official, his in every way that mattered. She should have been terrified. Instead, she was just tired of fighting it. Her phone buzzed, a text from Rose. Having lunch with friends today? So happy. Thank you for everything, sweet girl. Maya smiled, her chest warm. This was why she'd made the choices she had. Rose was thriving. Tommy was being cared for. She herself was finally, for the first time in years, not drowning. The price was her heart, given to a man who was beautiful and dangerous and determined to keep her even if it destroyed them both. Maybe it was worth it. Maybe love was always a risk, always complicated, always a choice between safety and something more. Dominic came home late that night, exhausted and blood-stained again. Maya was waiting in the kitchen with food she'd kept warm. Comfort food, the kind her grandmother used to make. He stopped in the doorway, looking at her, and something in his expression cracked. "I killed people today," he said flatly. "3 men who thought they could take from me and get away with it. I hurt them, slowly, so everyone would understand what happens when you cross me. That's who I am, Maya. That's what I do." She set down the plate, moved to him. "I know. And you're still here." "I'm still here." She reached up, touched his face. "You protect what's yours. I understand that. I don't have to like all your methods to accept who you are. You should run from me." "Probably." She smiled sadly. "But I love you too much to be smart about this." His eyes widened. "Say that again." "I love you." The words came easier the second time. "I'm in love with you, Dominic Zhao. Even though you're dangerous and controlling and you kill people, even though being with you probably means I'll never have a normal life, I love you." He kissed her, hard and desperate, like she was air and he was drowning. When he pulled back, his eyes were wet. "I love you," he said, his voice rough. "I've loved you since that night in the rain when you gave me money you couldn't afford to lose. I've loved you through every day you've been here, watching you take care of everyone around you while barely taking care of yourself. I love you so much it terrifies me." "Then we're terrified together." She took his hand. "Come on. Food first, shower second, then bed. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow." We keep saying that. Because it's true. One day at a time, Dominic. That's how we do this. He let her lead him to the kitchen, let her feed him, let himself be taken care of for once instead of always being the one in control. And Maya felt something settle in her chest. Not quite peace, but acceptance. This was her life now. Her choice. Her future. Complicated, dangerous, and absolutely worth it. 6 months after that night, Dominic proposed. Not with a dramatic gesture or a public display. Just the two of them on the penthouse balcony at sunrise, coffee in hand, the city waking below them. He pulled out a ring, simple, elegant, a diamond that caught the morning light, and said, "Marry me, make this official, let me keep you forever." Maya looked at the ring, at his face, at the life they'd built together in his world of shadows and luxury. She thought about Rose, happy and healthy in her assisted living apartment. About Tommy, who now worked legitimately for Dominic's shipping company and was putting himself through college. About all the ways Dominic had kept his promises, had protected her, had loved her even when it was complicated. "Yes," she said simply. "Yes, I'll marry you." The smile that crossed his face was pure joy. He slid the ring onto her finger, pulled her into his arms, and held her as the sun rose over Manhattan. They married 2 months later in a small ceremony, just Rose, Tommy, Chen, and a handful of Dominic's most trusted people. Maya wore a simple white dress. Dominic wore a dark suit and looked at her like she was the only person in the world. When he said his vows, to love her, protect her, cherish her for the rest of their lives, his voice was steady, certain, absolute. When she said hers, to stand beside him, trust him, love him through darkness and light, she meant every word. The reception was quiet, intimate. Rose cried happy tears. Tommy made a toast about second chances and the people who gave them. Chen smiled and said she'd never seen Dominic so at peace. That night, back in the penthouse that was now officially theirs, Dominic pulled Maya onto the balcony one more time. "No regrets?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "None." She leaned back against his chest. "This is exactly where I'm supposed to be." "Even though it's complicated?" "Because it's complicated." She turned to face him. "I gave you $20 in the rain, and you gave me a life I never imagined. I think that's more than a fair trade." I got the better deal. His hands cupped her face. You gave me hope, Maya. Reminded me that good things still exist in this world. That's worth more than money or power or anything else I have. You're getting sentimental in your old age. I'm 34. Practically ancient. She grinned. But I'll keep you anyway. He kissed her, soft and sweet, and Maya felt complete in a way she'd never expected. This man, this life, this strange and beautiful thing they'd built together. It was hers. She was his. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. The city sparkled below them, full of people struggling and surviving and hoping for better. Maya had been one of them once, barely holding on, invisible to the world. Now she stood 52 floors above it all, wrapped in the arms of a man who'd seen her when she was nothing, who'd valued her when she had nothing to offer but kindness, who'd loved her so thoroughly that she'd become someone new while staying exactly herself. Some fairy tales ended with true love's kiss. Hers ended with a ring on her finger, a dangerous man's protection wrapped around her like armor, and the certainty that sometimes the biggest risks led to the most beautiful destinations. She'd given away her last $20 to a stranger in the rain, and he'd given her the world. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.